Why aren't there more dual mono preamplifiers? That's a question we've not been asked before, and I think it's a good one. It comes to us from Brent in Illinois. Hey Paul, enjoying your videos and the discussion. Thank you. Appreciate you joining in with us. I'm a big fan of dual mono and mono block amplifiers. Why aren't there so few dual mono preamps being made, or am I not looking in the right places for them? No, I think these power ports are cool. We have to take the ears off them to put them into our power plants so they fit. They're over here. Yeah, they're pretty neat. Anyway, there are very few. In fact, I can't even think of one. There was a time period where dual mono preamplifiers were, oh, God, I'm not going to say all the rage, but certainly more popular than they are today as people tried them out and tried to see, if people would accept them. From a practical standpoint, they're a real pain in the butt. It's how do you control the volume to a dual mono? You got two pots, turning them up and down, two balance controls, two input selectors. A couple of companies, I can't think of who it was, but had some fairly clever solutions that they had. The top preamplifier had just a single pot and switches and controls, balance and all that, and it was slaved to the bottom one electronically. So you only had to turn one up, and then the electronics were separate. But in general, they're difficult, and you're going to compromise somehow unless you've got two. And then with a volume control, how do you track them? I mean, think about this. One of the issues that preamps have is they have to have good tracking from channel to channel. As you turn that volume control up, you don't want to have any deviation from left to right channel in terms of volume. If you have more than, say, 1/10 of a dB from at any point to any point, you're going to start having the channels shift as the volume goes up and down. This is something that we struggled with for years, trying to find when we had stereo concentric pots. Only companies like Alps and Noble made these ridiculously expensive pots that we used, who were laser trimmed. Sorry, I can't help myself. They were laser trimmed to be about that accurate, about 1/10, 2/10 of a dB from the bottom of the range all the way up to the top. It was really hard. As we started getting into more electronic volume controls, it became easier. But still, that's a major problem, tracking. And imagine the problem of two completely isolated dual mono preamplifier left and right preamps, and you're trying to track those level controls. It's a near impossible situation. So what you're really going to do is you'll have two separate chassis, and then somehow you got to have one central thing that turns them up and down for the usability of the person operating it and to keep the tracking right. So I think the practicality limitations are going to really bite you in the butt, and that's probably why you don't see more of them. And when we build a preamplifier, we make, we take a lot of time and energy to actually build them dual mono inside as much as we can. I mean, we still share a power supply, and so we could do better there. You could have separate power supplies within one chassis and separate boards, all feeding into a central volume control. You could do that, and that probably help with separation. And we do our best to separate the channels, and we measure the separation from, I think about 20 or 30 hertz all the way up to about 30 kilohertz, and we make sure that the channel separation between the two is, very high. There's only like a few millivolts of bleed through and crossover between the channels. So they're essentially dual mono, but to your point, they don't have the separate power supplies or the separate chassis or the separate plugs that a true dual mono preamplifier would have to qualify. But I think those are the reasons that you don't see more of those. Thank you for the question. It was one I hadn't even thought of for years. Talk to you tomorrow. All right. Bye.